I'm really glad to be here. That's a cool milestone for me. So this week, my milestone is the 20 miler, and it went really nicely. Let me share with you how that happened. It's Friday, it's raining, and it's easy run day. And today, after yesterday's workout that was a solid effort, I will definitely take it easy. How to train for a marathon. I'm reporting on my preparation to the 2022 Paris Marathon. Spoiler alert, I'm working with a fantastic coach, Steve Palladino. This video contains chapters, so you can jump to any part you're more interested in. Make sure that the soreness in the ankle doesn't go worse, but rather heal properly. And that could be a definition of an easy run, which is a session that does not hinder recovery. Hi there, today is Saturday, it's Fartlek day, and there's a lot of wind. My ankles are doing just fine, so I'm gonna focus on relaxing the strides and on the wind, of course. So what happens when you increase your mileage? When you reach something that you might want to call higher mileage? Well, you have to focus on the recovery, which becomes shorter relative to the intensity of the workouts and the long runs, because avoiding injury is of paramount importance. That allows us to access specific training stimulus and specific volumes of training. Along the way, we pass milestones. Whatever the milestones can be, I think it's a good treat. Reaching a point on your usual route, hitting a specific pace because it's just a consequence of your training, or successfully complete the last few weeks of your training block. And that's what I did. I focused on performing the exercise as opposed to watching the watch all the time. And with the wind, I end up a bit above target. But I wouldn't say that this session was taxing. So even though it's not perfect, I think I'm good here. We're Sunday, it's a long run, and specifically 20 milers. Here we go for 3 hours. Temperature dropped, and I just have a few degrees Celsius right now. But in order to actually have to adjust the critical power, we need to be even lower in temperature, in the negative. Usually dropping Celsius doesn't change much the critical power, even though they are probably they are optimals to run with. But on the other hand, passing 26, 28 degrees Celsius, then each degree makes a difference. We just passed the half mark and everything is going well. There is really no wind, and even if the temperature is low, with the sun, it's really not that cold. I'm a bit hot given the temperature, but overall those are really nice running conditions. Here is the county road 16. Gonna make a turn left, facing the sun. 37 minutes to the marathon power segment. Let's go. Now let's go see the international golf village. About 10 minutes from the marathon power tempo is going really nicely. I'm feeling pretty good now. Here we are in the golf village. We most probably have to hit those 35 kilometers next week to show better perspectives, better shots, but I'm really glad to be here. That's a cool milestone for me, so alright, time for the U-turn. Then I'm gonna take a gel right now because the marathon power segment is gonna start in a couple of minutes. 45 minutes. Let's go. That's my 3:06 right now. 15 minutes in the run, going really, really good, really fine. Gonna take a gel for the last 15 minutes because it's one gel per half an hour. Windy. And that's it. 45 minutes. Went really good. Really good. Feeling good. I have a, probably hear it, intermittent wind and pretty strong. Either there's nothing or then it's blowing like crazy and I have to slow down and change my form. So quite challenging to stay at a very even effort, but that can mimic some things that happen on Wednesday. So that's how the run was today, and that's really all good. So now let's meet at mile 20 and hopefully the cool down is gonna be a bit more pleasant than last week. If you didn't see it, it's right there. See you there. Definitely much more pleasant cool down this week. Probably I'll get some benefit from last week's run, but also the weather is much cooler, it's much more pleasant. And 32.5 kilometers, 20 miles. Really all good, under control. I feel I really own that one, and so that's really cool to have that to report. The 20 miler is it's a round number, but it's also something that relates well with the length of the marathon, of course. And even though there might not be an absolute requirement, it's for to run a marathon. It's one really advised, and two, it's just sweet when you get it independently of a few circumstances. So at least for me, that's some sort of pre-win on the race. It's some sort of a pre-race, and huge satisfaction in my training, in my running overall. Even more so that it went really just fine. I think that's I'd put a 7 in terms of rate of perceived exertion, and I have very mild soreness, so things that you might expect. I wouldn't call an eagle any niggle now. I was under the risk of having a niggle, and maybe I just, took care of it properly, and so it didn't bother me at all today. I just forgot about it after being warmed up, and it didn't come back. It was not worse than the previous run, so that's an important things to track. Okay, the trend is to go better on similar run. So that's really cool. And yeah, thanks the weather to be a bit cooler, it's also much more in line with what I will have on race day in Paris in April. So also something quite positive. And yeah, we're gonna look at the data. Let's look at the data. The overall profile of the power curve in orange looks nice. We can see a spike at the end of the warm-up, but it's just a glitch. The target interval is 303 to 309 watts. So with an average of 306 watts during the marathon power tempo, I'm right on target. What jumps at us is the air power, and indeed there was strong sustained wind. For note, the scale on the right hand side goes from 0 to 20, so those are definitely unusual levels for me. Now the good news is when we look at the table, we can see for the marathon power tempo those 306 watts and a running effectiveness of 0.92, which is a little bit better than last time, but the conditions are very different. Running effectiveness expresses how the athlete transform power into horizontal speed. Hence, it's dependent on all the conditions, the weather, the slope, and the wind, which is why there is the running effectiveness combined hill and wind effect. And that number, which is a percentage, tells us how much of the running effectiveness was lost due to hills and the wind compared to a flat course without wind. It also depends on the power, in the sense that running effectiveness will usually be different for low intensity effort compared to higher intensity effort. So what we are seeing given today's condition is that this running effectiveness combined effect is minus 5.4%, which is a lot, and somewhat theoretically I could have reached a much higher running effectiveness in more favorable conditions. Indeed, the pace at 4:49 on average on the marathon power tempo is actually, even given those conditions, not too bad and better than the previous runs. So what changed? Well, I ran with the endorphin speed 2, and the gait cycle felt more natural in those shoes compared to the ASICS Metaspeed Sky. Also, I made my running vest as light as possible, and it was not probably as tight as for the previous runs. Finally, I can feel my fitness getting in a better spot. So that's very encouraging, and I'm really looking forward for next week long run, hoping for mild weather conditions that could give me a really nice preview on what I could potentially accomplish at the 2022 Paris Marathon. And I see you on the next one.